Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here, and welcome back to another crypto video. Today, we're gonna be diving deep into what happened today with the Ripple v SEC lawsuit, specifically about the news which just came out about an emergency motion. What was that? I'll cover in today's video. I know I promised you guys I was going to dive into everything which happened today with the Ripple SEC lawsuit, and I will. But I've decided to split it up into two different videos so that I can dive deep while staying on one topic. So I recommend you guys all to subscribe because another important lawsuit video is going to be coming out in a couple of hours from now. Alright, the SEC filed an emergency motion for a discovery conference regarding Slack communications. SEC's order compelling Ripple to search and produce relevant communications between Ripple employees on Slack. And obviously we read the entire document right here. We read the entire news document. We did not read the entire 77 pages as that would be the death of me, but what it basically confirmed is a lot of our suspicions, and that is that it's not only Ripple that has shade on the SEC has some shade on Ripple too. And even though that's the primary underlying thing, I would say that the SEC kind of dug their own grave. Let me tell you guys exactly why. So within this motion, the SEC basically asked a pre-motion conference where the SEC will seek an order compelling Ripple to search and produce relevant communications between Ripple employees on Slack, a messaging application that a Ripple employee testified was and most likely here was a place that a lot of the stuff was used basically, because as we go further into this letter, one thing that the SEC is very sure about is that it has relevance, all right? It has a lot of relevance. And what I try to say is that Slack is another app that a lot of companies use. I use Slack too. And Ripple was also really avid users of Slack. It is basically used in the same fashion as email for some different parts. And, well, the SEC supposedly a couple of weeks or actually months ago already, even as far as August of last year, was already requesting Ripple to look up this stuff. Quote, by August 2020, Ripple had begun collecting and searching Slack communications at the SEC's request, but suspended those efforts after the SEC staff issued Ripple a notice of the staff's intent to recommend an enforcement action against Ripple in September of 2020. Now that to me was already a little bit of a surprise, as I didn't know that Ripple knew about all of this as far as August of 2020. That was my first surprise. The second surprise that I guess I saw today was that there were actually a lot of investigations which pulled through and a lot of investigations that are about to come. To expand on that, David Schwartz and basically any other member of Ripple has been asked, let's say, about 1,000 questions. During his investigative testimony, David Schwartz, Ripple's CTO, and one of his first and longest tenured employees testified that we don't know, yet it's rather interesting to me that they had such a huge amount of questions. And where do I find that? Well, if we scroll a little bit further, you'll actually see the amount of messages over on Slack, which decided to show the importance. But why they wanted all these messages was for a couple of reasons. One of them, which we'll dive a little bit deeper into later, is actually due to the amount of questions that some of these members of Ripple could not recall. And one of those members could not recall up to 250 questions or answers to questions. Well, let's start off with the top here. So why they want these Slack communications and why it is kind of digging their own grave is because they basically said Ripple promised earlier they were going to give it. They gave them hundreds of thousands of messages and then afterwards noticed, hey, we didn't give it all because of an error. Well, to elaborate on that, they thought they gave it all over. The SEC requested to look at it again. They said, no, we gave it all over. They requested to look it into again. Ripple said we gave it all over. And only after a very long time, again, Ripple had not only failed to properly collect and review all the Garlinghouse Slack messages, it had failed to collect and review as to all 33 designated custodians of Ripple's documents, direct messages between two people, multi-party instant messages, and chat messages posted on channels open to all Ripple employees. And Ripple admitted that the missing documents amount to a very substantial volume of additional Slack data, While Ripple had collected 82,000 conversations, each with many messages, reviewed 7,054 of those, and produced 1,468 of them, the missing documents consist of well over a million messages comprising terabytes of data. The Slack messages, in other words, are an information set whose size eclipses that of Ripple's large email productions, corroborating testimony that Ripple's employees communicated at least as often by Slack as by email. Point being, they basically said before, hey, we're going to give it to you. Then all of a sudden, yeah, they thought they gave it all over, yet they could, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like we just discussed. Where that gets important is that the SEC actually, I didn't even know this, right? Questioned all members of Ripple and a lot of members involved with Ripple. They questioned them all. Like Ripple now questioned William Hinman, the SEC basically requested all those Ripple employees to sit on a chair and ask him questions. And I believe a couple of the people that still have to be deposed are Brad Garlinghouse or Chris Larson and a couple other high-end executives. But the majority of executives we've ever heard about and some previous executives, they've all been questioned, which does lead me to wonder, has the Jed McCaleb actually been questioned? It might be so. It might be that we didn't hear about it, but it might actually be so that he did get questioned. It's not as crazy as you might think. It's because they actually hide a lot of stuff that we didn't know about yet. It's because nobody has brought it up, but it might actually have been so. All right, so and the SEC now is saying, hey, we needed all those documents and informations during the questioning because, well, the missing documents not only may be admissible at summary judgment and trial, so again, to use later on, but are likely to refresh Ripple's employees' recollections at trial. During the depositions, Ripple employees frequently testified that they did not recall many critical facts. For example, Ripple's former CFO, Ron Will, stated that he did not recall events in response to over 250 questions. Ripple's head of investor relations, Monica Long, did not recall answers to over 150 questions, and Brianne Madigan, who headed Ripple's XRP Global Markets team at the time of her deposition, and whose missing documents Ripple refuses to search, could not recall the answer to over 115 questions. However, the SEC was able to refresh witnesses' recollections using the Slack messages. Had Ripple properly searched and produced all responsive Slack messages, the SEC would have almost certainly been able to refresh the recollection of those deponents. In any event, the SEC needs them for summary judgment and trial. And, by the way, guys, there's another mosquito. I've been looking for him for so freaking long already, but I cannot find. That's always that glimpse of hope, right? You see him, you think, yeah, I'm about to catch this little son of a gun. You go up at it, you slam your hands or do something, and it slips through. And you try to slam the wall because it's on there, but it just slips through your fingers like a. I don't even know how to describe it. It's awful. And then it's not to be found for the next 45 minutes. That's been my struggle here. I'm not gonna say it's been really bad because I mean it could have been way worse, but still, right? That looming fear. And you know what I'm most fearful of, guys? That mosquito is going to sit on my microphone, and you guys are going to hear it, and I'm not going to notice. That's my biggest fear, right? It's not for me, it's for you guys. All right, so what does DSC want? Well, they want the missing documents of at least 22 of the custodians and a couple of parts of, I believe, just other parts of Ripple members. They just basically are saying, yeah, we think the burden here is not too bad, and we think it's going to help us in this lawsuit, all right? Point being. And now they gave 5 reasons as to why they should give it over for at least 22 of the 33. First, in part, given a significant amount of controversy in the case. All right, for example, court has also noticed it's really an important lawsuit. Second, Ripple is the only custodian with access to these documents. They could have asked Slack, for example, for it, but Ripple needs to consent. Third, Ripple has the financial resources necessary to undertake this, and this is interesting. The search requested by the SEC, which may cost several $100,000, which is actually extensive. Not only did Ripple raise over $1.4 billion as a result of the conduct at issue, which I find a really interesting statement, but Ripple continues to raise $150 million a quarter from more XRP sales. And it's funny, but they are actually quoting the Q2 report from Ripple's website in this lawsuit. While having no fewer than 7 insurance policies at its disposal to cover legal expenses. Indeed, Ripple is represented by at least 14 attorneys from 2 sophisticated law firms. And fourth, the responsive missing documents are critical to presenting an accurate and complete factual record on summary judgment and at trial, which basically just means, well, if we don't have that, we cannot properly fight this, right? Which, from a certain perspective, is correct. And fifth, the burden of production does not outweigh the benefit, because Ripple's failure to search and produce these responsive documents has already been prejudiced by the SEC's ability to obtain a relevant deposition testimony from Ripple's employees who have been deposed. Ordering Ripple to produce all the relevant missing docs is necessary to mitigate any further prejudice to the SEC. The Slack messages can be used at the upcoming depositions of the individual defendants, which is still going to happen. I didn't even know, but that's quite interesting. So, most likely, Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson will be deposed as well on summary judgment or at trial at substantive evidence or to refresh witnesses' recollections. Ripple's proposal that it search only part of the Slack messages of 6 custodians plus all of the individual defendants' messages is not proportional to the needs of the case. So that's what Ripple offered, and they did not want that. The frequency which one employee uses Slack does not equate to the relevance, and they basically just want to go for these 22. All right. So that is the conclusion of this document. In sum, the benefit of searching the missing documents for responsive messages is significant and outweighs the burden that the search will impose on Ripple. And the search and production will ameliorate the prejudice the SEC has already suffered. Ripple should not be permitted to reap a reward from its discovery mistakes and refuse at the last minute to search for the documents it long ago agreed to search. The court should therefore compel Ripple to gather, search, and if responsive, produce the missing documents as expeditiously as possible. Now, that is all good, right? Where does the hypocrisy come into play? Well, because if we actually look at what Ripple posted at the end of the previous hearing, which is rather interesting, they basically said to the judge, hey judge, did you know that the SEC has still up to this date not given us information regarding the status of Bitcoin, Ether, and XRP within their own, administration? And the judge said, no, I didn't know that. I'll look into it. And the critical point here being, the SEC just awakened, if that's the right way to say it, a sleeping dog. Because I firmly believe that Ripple was keeping quiet for a very good reason. And like I covered in the live stream, there is so much stuff which is odd right now. To start off, the William Hemmer deposition, it was all an issue of privilege, right? Now, there has been a new document about it, so I'll cover that later today, but it was kept quiet for so long, which is odd. The motion to strike Ripple's fair notice defense. There was a back and forth because the 2 SEC members let go of a statement regarding fair notice, basically, yet they stopped the communications all of a sudden, even though they could have brought it a step further and closed the entire motion, yet they didn't, which was strange. And so forth and so on. There's a couple of parts which we just don't get and that just don't really line up. Like, why these choices? Oh yeah, now, like I just said as well, why did Ripple not go after those missing documents? Why not? Why did they wait? Why are they waiting? What are they waiting for? It's all so weird that I think they have something bigger at play, right? I really must believe they have something bigger at play. So I'm waiting. I'm really just waiting here on my chair, sitting comfortably waiting. And while we're doing that, we're obviously trading XRP and being quite positive with the result because, well, XRP is a freaking powerhouse right now. I'm still extremely excited about it, even though, like I'll cover most likely in another video tomorrow, the price is, I guess, doing exactly what I expected. For Bitcoin, I told you guys $46,000 retest, then most likely bounce back down. For Ethereum, we wanted a bounce, however, from the $2,900 mark to go further up. It's 50-50. Bitcoin looks to go down, XRP looks to go up, Ethereum looks to go up. The XRP to BTC looks to go down, though, as it really hasn't broken out too significantly. So it's a difficult one, but I'm still quite bullish on the longer term, as I think the structure has been broken and people's excitement is back in. So this entire lawsuit debacle as well, it is annoying, yes, but it's not the end of anything, right? It's just a start. It's just an opener of a lot of beautiful stuff that is about to come. So again, guys, today, a little bit later, I will cover for you guys the entire deliberative process privilege part. Don't worry about it. I will figure it out exactly to you guys' needs. Don't worry. But theoretically speaking, eventually a telephonic conference might be scheduled in as well, but that is not what was discussed here. Because I don't believe that it actually is a telephonic conference. I just believe that requesting a pre-motion conference is basically before an official motion is dropped, a back and forward conversation about a specific issue. Right? That's at least as far as I know now from reading a lot of these documents. So yeah, that was it. Make sure you check out Bybit. There's $1,600 worth of bonuses that you can get. And see you guys again in another one.